Today, we're talking about the most recent roster move for the Washington Commanders. We're also going to be talking about why it is too soon to press the panic button this season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting, Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And let's start with the most recent roster move for the Washington Commanders. And so got a chance to see this tweet from the team. And so it looks like that they have placed defensive end Dorance Armstrong on the reserve injured list, and they have signed defensive end Jaylon Holmes. And so Jaylon Holmes is very familiar with the Washington Commanders team. He is very familiar with this defense. In fact, Jaylon Holmes was one of the players that did not make the final cuts for this roster, and so he was released. Then the team went ahead and signed him back to the practice squad. And then just recently, they went ahead and released him to make room for Sam Cosmi. And so I like the fact that we are getting a player that is very familiar, with Joe Witt Jr. and his defense and understands the system. He understands the play calls and things like that. And so, Jaylon Holmes can go ahead and jump right in because he is probably going to be dependent on a lot here. I think that there is going to be a lot of playing time at this point in time because this team has lost 3 defensive ends. So you're talking about now Dorance Armstrong is gone. You don't have Dietrich Wise Jr. You don't have Javonte Jean-Baptiste as well. And so Jaylon Holmes is certainly going to get some reps. And so I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and he's going to become, this team's sack leader or anything like that, but I do think that he is going to be able to come in and certainly make some plays for this team. And so let's see if he is going to be able to step up with this opportunity. Once again, I'm not expecting him to just replace Dorance Armstrong and his production because Dorance Armstrong, he was at 5.5 sacks here, and I think that he was easily going to be heading to a 10-plus sack season. And with Jaylon Holmes, he's only got 4 career sacks. He had 2 with the team last season. And so let's see if he's able to take advantage of this playing time. And so that's the most recent roster move for the Washington Commanders. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and jump into why I think it's too early to hit the panic button on this season for the Washington Commanders. And so, look, I think that the first reason why I think it is too early to hit the panic button on this season is that when you look at the NFC East, the Washington Commanders are still very much in it. And so I know that they have a tough schedule here, coming up, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs. You have, the Seahawks, and then you have to go travel over and you have to play the Dolphins. You have the Lions as well. And so, yes, it's a tough patch. And then also, too, the team is dealing with some injuries and they're trying to figure themselves out. They just haven't been consistent, which we'll talk about that here in a moment. But when you look at the records, everything's right there for the Washington Commanders. And, just keep in mind that the injuries that are hitting the Washington Commanders now, that can certainly happen to these teams that are ahead of the Commanders. And so, that could happen to the Eagles, that can happen to the Cowboys, and it's certainly going to happen to everybody else in the National Football League. And so at this point in time, the Commanders just need to hang in there. And when you look at this and you start at the top of your division with the Eagles have taken some losses this season. And I know that, look, they've got it done for the most part. They're 5-2, but they have not looked good in those losses. And the Dallas Cowboys, I think that is a team that very much can be had by the Washington Commanders because keep in mind, even though they got routed in this last game by the Dallas Cowboys, they still put up 22 points. And that's with, bringing in the backup quarterback. That's with both quarterbacks being sacked twice. That's with the turnovers and things like that. And so talking about cleaning some stuff up here, and the Washington Commanders can get right back in it. And just, pivoting a little bit and just going back to those injuries, look, you know that reinforcements are coming because Debo Samuel was not out there. He's only missed one game this season, and I think that he's only had one game where he just wasn't that good, and that was against the Chicago Bears. And so I think a lot of that was the fact that he's dealing with the heel injury. Then also too, you have to give the Bears some credit. I think that they really kind of locked in on him, but you get Debo back, you're going to get Terry McLaurin back. And look, they're going to help each other out because, it's going to make it to where defenses cannot just key in on one or the other. And so that's going to help you there. Also, too, you have to be encouraged with what you saw with Zach Ertz, even though you did see the drops. And I think that when you look at what you're seeing from Luke McCaffrey, like I think that he's starting to trend up. Let's see if Jalen Lane can start to kind of catch up here. But I do see something here with Luke McCaffrey. And at some point, you are going to get Jaden Daniels back and healthy as well. And so I think that that's one of the things that the Commanders really have, I think, in their pocket. If they could just hold on, you are going to have reinforcements coming back with some of these players. And also, too, look, you still have one of the top rushing attacks in the NFL. And so, look, I think that you can do a lot there because you can lean in on this rushing attack, and that's going to help you as far as the time of possession. That's also too going to make it more manageable on these third down situations. I know that this team has really struggled on third down, but I do think that if you can make that third down marker, just easier to get to. So you're looking at those 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4s, it's going to help you with your conversion rate here. And so I think that is something that the Commanders can lean on. And that's why, I'm not necessarily pressing the panic button here. And then next, look, I think that when you look at just what's going on with this team and just really what's going wrong, it really comes down to the fact that they're beating themselves. And so I think about something that Dan Quinn said at the start of training camp when he was talking about like the schedule and everything else. And he was like, look, the toughest opponent on the schedule is the Washington Commanders. And so I think that is really where this team is at this point in time. They are in a battle with themselves because they have to figure out how to just minimize the turnovers. They need to find a way to minimize the penalties. They've got to get better with the tackling. They've got to get off to better starts. Like those are things that really that just comes down to I think just focusing in a little bit more. Like, I'm not sure that that's necessarily something that you look at that and you say, hey, this is what we have to draw up in the playbook and stuff like that. Like, this is not X's and O's type of stuff. It's just mental focus on these things. And I think that if they can just really tighten these things up, you're going to see this team really trend in the right direction. And this is why I think that you have to trust Dan Quinn and this coaching staff, because when I look at this team, just as a fan that has been been with this team for a long time, like I don't worry about where this team is at just yet, because I'm thinking of just looking at teams that were coached by Norv Turner or Steve Spurrier or Jim Zorn. Like those teams were disasters. And so I think that this is a team that very much has the talent. It just needs to tighten some stuff up and they can get going in the right direction. And just keep in mind, the injuries and the setbacks and things like that, that is going to happen to these other teams as well. And so let's see if the Washington Commanders can hang in there. Even if Jaden Daniels is going to miss, I think that you have to be encouraged with what you saw with Marcus Mariota so far in the starts that he's had to have over the last couple seasons. And I know this last game out, it wasn't his best, but still the offense doesn't change, which is a good thing there because you can still open up the playbook. You can run the same stuff. He's a mobile quarterback as well. Yes, he doesn't do the same things that Jaden Daniels does on the ground, but still he is a mobile quarterback. He can get out into space and he can hurt some defenses and he can make all the throws and things like that. And immediately, look, he has the same type of connection with a Debo Samuel. He threw a touchdown to him against the Atlanta Falcons. Like, this guy will find Chris Moore and all these guys out there. And so Marcus Mariota can get it done. And I think that the protection has been there for the most part with this team. Again, it's just all about getting consistent, which is why, again, I think it is way too early to hit the panic button on this season. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Do you think the Washington Commanders need to hit the panic button? I know that there is a lot of talk around this defense and just really what they've given up and things like that. And again, I think with this team, if they tighten some stuff up, yes, are they going to give up some plays? But I think that if they can just ultimately not beat themselves, I think we're going to like the results at the end of the season. And so you guys let me know in the comments here, are you ready to hit the panic button, or do you think it's too early there? And then also, too, let me know what you guys are thinking with this most recent signing here of Jaylon Holmes. Once again, this is a player that is very familiar with this defense and this team. Again, he was on the practice squad. He's just kind of bounced back and forth here. And so I think that now, with all these defensive ends out and everything else, like, he's certainly going to get a chance to make some plays. And again, I'm not going to say that he is going to replace Dorance Armstrong or these players that are out, but I am really interested in seeing exactly what he's going to do with this opportunity that he's going to have in front of him. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.